Really the main areas that we're going to focus on through this series are design, which again can be even free. If you look at our house, you can't see it from this angle, but we have a southern facing exposure. We're going to be taking in a lot of sunlight. That's going to offset, that's a design element that, that we didn't have to do that, but that's going to be really nice for sunlight, but also it's going to offset a lot of our heating costs, and it's going to be a really great thing for a solar setup in the future. And then the next thing is just techniques, some things that you can do in your building. When you're framing the house, when you're building the house, some things you can suggest and ask your builder to do that are going to really ensure that your house is airtight and built right. And then the last thing we'll talk about is systems or materials. So systems meaning HVAC systems, meaning solar systems. We're going to kind of talk about some of those themes, but we're also going to get a little bit into some of the materials that are going to help you build better. I brought some right here. So there's quite a few materials you can use. We'll talk about these a lot. Again, we're not going to cover off on every single material that you can use, but we are going to cover off on some of the main pieces, whether you're using cement board, whether you're using wood, what kind of OSB sheathing you're using, some really basic stuff, and we'll explain exactly what that means in a later video. So just to round that out, the topics that we're going to focus on mainly is going to be the architecture piece. We're actually going to do a little interview with the architect that designed our house. I'm going to talk to him a little bit about sustainable building and how he got into it. We're going to talk about framing, how the house is actually framed. What you see kind of behind me is the initial building blocks for a home. We're going to talk about the exterior, what materials are used on the exterior of a home. Ventilation, that's kind of the system that I mentioned that's going to provide your air or your heating or cooling throughout the house. We're going to talk about that. Electricity, what role electricity will play and how you can kind of offset some of the usage and get really efficient with electricity. There's a lot of great tips there. Fireplaces, if you are interested, I'm going to do a video on fireplaces just to talk a little bit about what are your options, what do they look like, how can you best work with a fireplace in your new home. Water, very important, going back to the theme of what you kind of intake to your body and what you're doing on a daily basis. We're going to talk about water and the options there. There's a lot to think about. And then we are going to dabble a little bit in finishes. We're not going to go too deep there, but that is something that we'll talk about. So again, thank you for watching. I'm hoping to keep these videos short and sweet, and looking forward to you tuning in.